Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome as you start coming on in. This is Banner and Backbone. I'm Nick Perro, joined by my friend, independent analyst Shane Urich. How's it going, brother? How are you doing today?
We endure. I was kind of telling you before the show. I think a lot of folks probably have noticed worrying about me, and I'm a little worried about myself, obviously. But we're working our way back. But yeah, definitely burned myself out a little bit, covering 40 plus days of straight war. Once the ceasefire came around, I think my body just kind of died on me a little bit. So there is it's a I suppose it's all a warning to oneself, right? About where your body has its limits, what it's capable of, what it's not. And I think that's important. Nick knows this better than anyone else. He's like a professional when it comes to reminding people not to burn themselves out. We got to take care of ourselves and remember to keep doing that, guys, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, because, it really does. It really is important that we take care of ourselves. But I'm happy to be here. I got a fun new T-shirt. I got in the mail yesterday. Reptilian in the morning. So a little bit.
Nice.
I don't know. I got my back hurts and I hate the government hat on. So we're here to talk some Palantalk, talk about some cronyism.
Yep,
Um,
cronyism and nepotism, and that is where we're at in a lot of ways. So, Shane, do you want to jump in on anything that stood out to you in recent days or weeks around some of the more cronyistic actions that have been going on?
it's a lot of folks would know. I think the easiest examples of this are, for me, looking at what the hell happened in the Pentagon to find us here. I think the firing of the Secretary of the Army in the middle of a war by Pete Hegseth was really dumb. I think that the decision to send the two people that Iran refused to negotiate with to negotiations the first time without the guy they said they would negotiate with again, it's pretty stupid. We've got what else recently happened? I saw. They are firing. This is interesting. They're firing all of the women and replacing them with men, the evil women. I thought that was odd. The best example I can
Well,
think
it's
of
not
is
odd, but it's
I,
pretty
I
on
say
point for
I
them.
say odd as in the almost kind of like cryptic sense, but yes, like it is absolutely like not surprising at all that they throw the women out when it gets uncomfortable. They become the scapegoats for sure. But I'll be candid. I think that I am limited in the domestic sense of what I'm really aware of. I can tell you that the cronyism is very clear just in the structure and the efficacy of the United States, how it's conducting itself. It's like a petulant child. It's a nepotistic little baby who has never ever had anyone say no, and the assumption that you can continue to do the same thing and it'll work because you have money, uh, that is breaking in real time. We're
Hmm.
watching it. We're watching the world realize that there is no coming back from to whatever normal that they were waiting and hoping for. That after not even 2 years, uh, the recovery trajectory is far sailed, and that everyone's going to have to make their own decisions on how they want to
Hmm.
proceed in this new world. And that's a direct result of the title of this episode today is what happens when institutions become rotten, and it's a revolving door and not a merit-based quality of service commitment to the mission driven institution, but an institution that exists to take advantage of that institution's power itself to extract whatever through that. So I think that you know, you look at every branch of the United States government, there's nothing left. There is nothing left. I can't find one. I mean, so I think that really is, at least for, you know, to answer your question, I hope I kind of got there, but I think that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm seeing what I'm seeing is we're starting to unravel, or not we, but the system that is intended to prop up uh, white male landowners is falling apart.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, we've seen in the past what this could look like as it starts to fall apart. Like, we've seen ultra rich people in American history. We've seen slave owners. We've seen robber barons. We have seen what it looks like to be on the precipice of falling apart, and we've gotten through it, but we've never actually solved the underlying problems.
Yeah.
Now I think people are awake to those facts, are awake to the fact, and are starting to get really woken up to the fact that nothing is as it's the systems that we believed in are working as intended, and that when they work hurts all of us.
Right.
And that's being exposed really, really blatantly right now, and we're seeing it. One of the big things that I saw last week was the announcement of all the drone deals that are going on, and drone manufacturing that is geared directly toward Eric Trump's company, or a company that Eric Trump sits on. And Palantir has become more and more and more involved in everything, and that is through cronyism as well, because of the connections with JD Vance and all of the Peter Thiel alignment and the Thielization of America into a techno-fascist state is all cronyism geared towards the friends of, or the puppet master of JD Vance, or friends of the Trump family, or Trumps themselves. And I think people see it. People are seeing it. And part of where people see that is we had a security breach incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah.
And it is being made out to be an assassination attempt. What it is we don't know what the fuck happened, who this person really is, but it's everyone's immediate response to that was, is this a false flag?
That's
Is there
crazy,
something
right?
wrong? So many people out here, everyone I saw was like, is this staged? This isn't real.
There
We
was no
need
metal
more information.
detectors, I heard,
Like,
at the event. Zero. And then Caroline Levitt says there's going to be shots fired. I mean, what
yeah,
the
like
hell?
they're trying to rewrite something that we all saw, and it was a room full of journalists and people who report on things all the fucking time. And not all of the folks who went there are aligned with the White House in any way. Yeah. Do I think we should have correspondence dinner like this where we're having rich journalists sit down and wine and dine while the rest of us are fucking begging for scraps? No, we shouldn't. But we did. It did happen. So that happened. Whether it was staged or not, or false flag or not, everyone is questioning it. And that's really the important aspect that the fascist regime cannot control any longer, because so many of us have stopped being afraid to say what is needed to be said, and they cannot control that when that becomes the predominant narrative and discussion, because everyone is talking about it.
Yeah.
And they can try and suppress it, but it exposes more and more of the nepotism and cronyism every time they do it. Like, the whole point of what this assassination and or security breach event was to stage, we need a new ballroom. We need to finish the ballroom so that we can have this bunker and secure ballroom that the president never has to leave his compound for. And he has this palace that he never has to leave from because he has everything he needs. Well, no, You had a security breach and you need to fix your fucking security because this seemed like a purposeful lack of security because I have to go through metal detectors and get fucking pat downs to go to a concert, let alone having to meet the fucking president and FLOTUS. Like, you would think that the most likely person to have assassination attempts against them would have the highest level of security. I don't advocate for assassination in any way. So right wingers, don't you fucking try and misconstrue my words here. You would think that somebody like that with the Secret Service would have had security outside and around the building and inside and on every floor and on every entrance. You don't just have random ass people walk up to the White House Correspondents' Dinner and start shooting. That doesn't make sense. And the fact that everybody responded the way that they did shows that people are awake and listening. And that wokeness, being woke, as we would say, and listening and hearing, means that we see the cronyism when we see a company that Eric Trump sits on the board of, being awarded a massive drone contract. Or we see Palantir taking over the entirety of our HHS infrastructure and background so that they can access all of our data and all of our medical records and do who knows what with. We're seeing it and people are admitting it because we're no longer afraid to say what needs to be said.
What do we have to lose? I
Yeah,
said,
what do we have to lose at this
I
point?
said so long ago, I said, if they want to stay in power, they just need to leave people enough so that they think that somehow they can be them one day. But
Mhm.
the thing about people like these people who are, you know, children of nepotism and cronies is they don't understand when to stop. They don't understand moderation. They don't understand the potential that anything could actually go awry, that they should be able to take whatever they want and people will just let them do it because that is how things are. That is why Donald Trump does what he does. It's why, you know, and I don't even know how he's alive. That's another discussion altogether. I like have, you know, I just was thinking that like, how is he alive? He looked like he was almost dead. Now he's like, I digress. But like the whole point is like he's probably getting the best medical treatment like, you know, imaginable whilst Americans are dying because their health insurance is too expensive. And it's really, you know, it's
Not
absolutely
even too expensive, but not available.
it's not available because they're pulling the funding. You know, my brother works in a lab and they're experiencing issues getting funding universally, right? Like there's less
Hmm.
grants than there was before. Our science are the things that made us unique by
Hmm.
at least supporting our educational institutions where people would come here and we would build a brain trust in America. That was our value. These people don't appreciate a brain trust because they're not smart. They just have a lot of money. And people have conflated the two. Money and intelligence are not the same thing.
Correct.
A revolving door that gets you rich because you and your buddy just walk through over and over and over again. And every time you walk through, that's $50 million is not the same as you having business acumen and being smart and savvy and knowing how to, you know, run a top line and how to make cuts and how to keep people around so that you have the talent to be successful in your industry. Those are not the same thing. And that's exactly, I think, the nature of these people is that it's more of a matter of what is the expectation versus the reality, and reality is entirely decoupled. The very idea that they're writing a contract with the company that Eric Trump is on the board of when there's absolutely no way that the resources that they need to build the drones for the several $100 million contract, they're writing checks that have no return. There is no return on this investment. They're just handing him money. There is no product at the end of this. This is an open-ended contract for X amount of drones at when? When will we see the drones? When will the American people feel safer, right? When will we feel safer? If anything, I feel less safe. I don't even know if we have enough interceptors to stop it if Russia or China decided to launch a massive barrage of missiles at us. In fact, they took a bunch of shit from here to go over there. I don't think we're safe. I think that we could be attacked right now, and we could experience an event in which we are not defended because of the actions taken by this Pentagon. We are intrinsically, we are less safe. Like this
We
is,
are.
we are
We're way less safe
than we were
than before.
Correct.
Yeah. And so I want to give some like concrete numbers here for y'all
Please.
to think about, because, and names of organizations that are associated in this nepotism. And we've talked about Palantir. Palantir is one of those nepotism and cronyism places. Let's talk about contracts and within the field ecosystem of fascism, because Palantir is a fascist company. And people need to say that. Palantir is a fascist company. That is what they export. That is what their tools are designed to create. So, since Inauguration Day in 2025, Palantir has been awarded over $1.3 billion in federal contracts across DoD, Homeland Security, Treasury, State, HHS, VA, Energy, Transportation, Justice, Agriculture, HUD, and Commercial. Plus, they have NASA, GSA, and U.S. International Development Finance Corporation contracts. They're literally within every single institutional system in America.
Yep.
They are the problem. Next, Anduril Industries, which is part of the Teal Founder Fund. It is the primary backer.
Yeah.
On March 2026, the Army awarded Anduril a $20 billion enterprise contract to consolidate more than 120 separate procurement actions into a single contractual framework covering Anduril's full commercial technology stack, including its AI-enabled Lattice platform, hardware, data infrastructure, and support services, with a completion date of March 12, 2036.
So
$20 billion for a 10-year open-ended contract to take all of the procurement system and turn it into a Anduril managed Teal-backed system that he can access and has all of the ability to turn on and off when he's ready to. When he's ready to break America down, he just turns the systems off.
correct.
Next, do you want to talk about any of that before I go any further? Because it gets worse.
Well, I mean, like, so there's a couple things, right? And I mean, so the idea that you have, and I have a list, right, of all the fellows and the companies as well. And, like there's Anduril, and then you have the basically the entire capture of the Pentagon's industrial complex, right? So they did that back in November 2025. They really closed that door. But the thing that you said, right, that's really important is there's not a single institution that Palantir is not embedded in directly. So it's kind of twofold though, right? So Palantir is now, it's a parasite on the United States government. So you have what was originally a private sector that was uncomfortably close with our federal government, which is now entirely ingrained. So you could argue that the institutions themselves are privately controlled, which no longer makes them public institutions, right? So I think that's an important distinction to make, is once you have institutional capture at that level, that is no longer a public institution. So the DoD is not a public facing institution. It is a army effectively indebted to a private corporation, which the distinction is important. It is no longer, at least the Army most certainly doesn't do things the way they used to do. They fired everyone in the Army. So anyone who's left is probably part of the new order, whatever that looks like. If you go back and you count the numbers in the Pentagon purge, right? And I think the Pentagon's an important place to start. But as you noticed, it goes far beyond that. And I think that your assessment really is, and Iggy, correct me if I'm wrong, but like there's nothing, they're in everything. Like you said, they can turn off everything. They can turn off the government. But I think that's kind of a double-edged realization, in that they've given us the green light to really say these are not legitimate institutions anymore. They cannot be legitimate institutions if they were legitimate institutions, but depending on the amount of damage and integration Palantir has achieved, they may not even be revivable institutions, right? Like that's something we have to consider, is how much damage, like at what point does the Social Security Administration become so warped and basically just becomes a data set for Palantir? At what point does that need to be reconstituted in a very serious way? At what point
Mhm.
does the Pentagon require reconstitution because it is a private corporation? At what point does DHS require reconstitution because they need to be reconstituted? That doesn't mean
Mhm.
destroyed. It means stripped down and reassembled in a system that works. And I think that you said people are waking up, and it was gas. I think the biggest thing was gas. I think that it was food and gas. It was always going to be food and gas. That's how it was in Rome. That's how it's going to be here. We have 780 bases. If that's not an empire, you tell me what is. So this is an interesting point, and it's Palantir's empire as much as it's the United States at this point, and that's kind of crazy that you have a private corporation that effectively has an empire. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah. And this is all, there is a goal. Palantir wrote it down too. They had a 22-point manifesto that they just put out in a
Oh, a new
book.
one.
That, did you not see the 22-point manifesto from last week from with Alex Karp? And
I've seen that
holy
Alex
shit,
Karp.
that's
What?
the one on their book, like the techno fat. It's like I think the book is called like the Technological Republic or something, and it's literally just a playbook on fascism. On And that's what they're selling. They're selling fascism, and they got a lot of blowback from it. Actually, it was trending on Threads as its own like new community. The UK government is reassessing their contracts with Palantir because of it, and
Big
that's
deal.
really what needs to happen.
Correct.
Is the US is not going to be the starting point for this part. Like, we may be the starting point in terms of our citizenry is pushing back against the company itself. The next step then has to be other nations need to join in with our resistance effort.
Correct.
And end those contracts.
Correct.
Because we can't do that part. You guys can. You can effectively cut Palantir off as other nations. If other nations are willing to effectively cut off and then purge the Palantir system from their governments or their entities and their institutions that they rely on, that will end part of the exporting of fascism that we do in the States. The US exports fascism as a corporate business model.
Correct.
And it requires other nations to not buy that fascism. Because if you're buying it, you're supporting it, and that support turns into more fascism in the US, which then turns into more fascism everywhere else. So other countries, this is the part where we cannot do this effort.
Correct.
Y'all have to do it with us.
Yeah. And you make a great point, and I kind of want to take it another step, because a lot of countries integrated with Palantir originally because Palantir was doing a good job at what it did, right? So the idea being that it was very good at the time, it was the best at predictive predictive intelligence, targeting these terrorists, doing these things. Like when our discussions, I remember our earlier discussions where, the discussion was Palantir is really good at what it does. And as long as there's people in the military that are not going to let them do X, Y, and Z, then it should be kept to a degree because it gives us an edge, right? Those were our earlier discussions when things were different, before the purges, before these things, when we felt like there was a safeguard. What these countries are seeing is that when you welcome Palantir, you're not welcoming in intelligence and military edge. You're welcoming in a company that wants to undermine your government institutions, take over your country, take away your sovereignty, and make you a corporation indebted to them. And countries need to realize that Palantir is not a edge. It is the first. It's the poison capsule in your tooth. You do that, you bite down on that, you're dead, because they will capture your government. You give them the entrance, they will bring in everything. They will bring in the rest of that comes with Palantir. Palantir's the beginning. It's the tip of the iceberg. The corruption, the billionaires, the networking, the corporate fascism layered on top of building a revolving door, finding the weak points in your parliament, your government, wherever that may be, and beginning institutional capture starts with the contract. That's where it starts. It starts with the contract. You let them in, you give them the government. They're going to find the people in the government that are willing to be corrupt, and they corrupt and destroy your institutions. That's the decision these countries have to make. Australia, the UK, right? These are more publicly known examples, but the IAEA, okay, the International Atomic Energy Association, who monitors all these things, they're entirely contracted dependent on Palantir. I mean, a lot of these things this is institutional capture on a level that goes far beyond just one country. I mean, it affects our international bodies, which is why I think when you look at a restructuring of the world order at the scale that what's going on right now, it actually is in a position where, like you're saying, countries cutting contracts, countries doing these things, there's actually leverage here that wasn't there before. Because if everyone decides to say, okay, now Palantir is comfortable in America, they're at war in Iran, they're using Palantir stuff and they're killing kids. Do we really want this? Is this how we are successful as a country and maintain our sovereignty? And if the answer is no, then the dependent factor is how deeply embedded are they already? And this is something where countries that are not the United States, where viewers, a lot of my viewers are from around the world as well. This is a good thing for and you're in lots of countries as well. We both have an international audience. If you're watching from somewhere else, you need to look at your government and say, are they even capable of getting them out without us taking action? Do you need to go on strike? Do you need to push? Do you guys need to organize in a way while you still can, where you're not seeing the families of deployed troops being arrested in the Capitol for demanding that they are transparent about the health of those soldiers and bring our soldiers home from an unnecessary war, while you still can gather and do those things? You should safely. We can do that here, but whether that is safe or not is more in question than it was 3 or 4 months ago, most certainly. But it is something that we can do here. But if you want to see the United States triumph, unfortunately, the international pressure needs to be there. I would love to say that the United States, that the people of the United States could do it by themselves. I don't think that is as likely or dependable. I do think with sufficient international pressure at which these corporations collapse or are at least forced to really reconsider their strategy, that is the leverage that could tip the scales, because then you're looking at companies that aren't in necessarily the best position to maybe if you're a congressperson and Palantir's offering you a lot of money, but Palantir is openly fascist and you still have to get reelected, or you still don't want, you want to be able to go home and not have people in your front lawn every day calling you a fascist, then you might have to reconsider whether or not you take that bribe and you vote pro Palantir. Those things don't happen unless Palantir is substantially weakened, and we cannot do that in America because they have already captured our government.
We can do is push back on it. Like, we can actively push back on it locally. We can do things like figure out where all the map and figure out where all the flock safety cameras are in your town, and do local things to pressure your city council to remove flock safety cameras or other pieces. And yes, Teal is connected to Flock. He was an early investor in the company, and he has expressed interest in buying it if he can, because he wants the dashboard that they have. He wants the data aggregation tooling that they have built. It's less about the cameras. Yes, the cameras are a great add-on for him because they're already installed, and he would have contracts all over the country for more cameras. But it's the dashboard that he wants. It's the algorithmic data analysis and tooling that they have at Flock for their data monitoring systems. And so he wants that so he can integrate it into the Palantir side. And that's really, yes. So that is a scary one, is flock safety. And before we get too far into like going down that rabbit hole, let's go back to our nepotism in the current, active nepotism stuff that's going on, because yes, we need to keep the flock stuff in the front of our mind. Like, that's a really bad one for local surveillance and state surveillance and personal surveillance, and we need to be aware of flock safety and the dangers of it. We also need to be aware of where we're being pushed towards right now with the war in Iran, whatever the fuck is going on there right now. But what it is it's not going to end. Of all the things that are going to happen, this is not the war towards Iran, or the aggression in that area is not going to end, because they have not created the drone industry yet. They have not created the system that they need to industrialize America into a drone producing, AI producing military techno-fascist state. They're not there yet, but they did just award some contracts that are going to get them there. So we've talked about the Teal founding side. Let's talk about the Trump family side for Trump family enterprises. So we've got, and this one I referenced earlier, is we've got Eric Trump with the Pentagon just awarded the Foundation Future Industries, a robotics firm where Eric Trump serves as chief strategy advisor, a $24 million contract to test its Phantom humanoid robots for future military applications. Nothing now, nothing useful right now, but they're just giving $24 million to this company to create Phantom humanoid robots for future military application. That sounds like a Terminator. I don't know if anybody else has seen Terminator or what Skynet is, but we have our own Skynet. It's called Palantir and Anduril. Like, we just got Skynet, but it's based on an abuse of Lord of the Rings mythology, because fuck him for taking Lord of the Rings mythology. Like, fuck that guy.
For real.
That being said, all of that sounds like this first one, Foundation Future Industries with their Phantom humanoid robots, sound like Terminators. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay.
No.
Next one, Eric and Don Jr. with the Power Us, a drone manufacturer partly owned by Eric and Don Jr., is positioned to compete for a $1.1 billion set aside by the Pentagon. That's just money set aside for them to use to build U.S. armed drone manufacturing bases following the administration's ban on Chinese-made drones. So we're not buying from China, but we're going to buy from the sons of the president instead.
But
Next,
here's where I get confused. Sorry, keep going. I'm already getting.
No. Here's where you get confused. Ask. Butt in.
Okay, great. You want to not buy from China? Who are you going to buy from?
Saudi Arabia, probably.
Saudi Arabia just said that they want us to drop the blockade, and we're about to lose Saudi Arabia because we're blockading their oil, and they are at their wits' end. So that's not going to work.
Oh, I know. They're going to take over the rest of the Americas because that's really part of the goal.
Yeah,
the techno-fascist state requires the takeover of Americas because if you've ever read or seen the movie Starship Troopers, that is what they kind of want. It's also, for those who don't know, it is a parody and it is making fun of fascism. It is showing you how fucking awful fascism is. The book is very different than the movie, but it's a required reading for most military officers because it teaches you about leadership and fascism in command. But that movie is where they want to go. And if you noticed, service equals citizenship. One of the things that Palantir said they want to require is mandatory service for all Americans because service equals citizenship. And when they say all Americans, they want to take all of the Americas. And guess what? If we owned all of the Americas, we don't need China anymore because we have all those resources we could just plunder as an empire and make slaves out of all those poor non-white people who are slave candidates, I guess, because they're not white assholes and fascist assholes. But it's to take the Americas. That's the next step. Is they don't need Saudi Arabia and others. They just need the Americas.
Okay, I'm confused again. How are they going to do that with 45% naval surge capability as testified to Congress by military officials? Okay.
Don't talk about that.
Got it.
Don't talk about that. We don't talk. They don't talk about those things here.
Right. Okay.
Numbers are meaningless to them.
It's a dream. Their dream.
I have a dream that sucks. The techno-fascists have a dream that sucks. Shall I carry on before I break you more?
Yeah. You're gonna keep breaking my brain. So please, let's go.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So next, Don Jr. with 1789 Capital Portfolio. The Vulcan Elements, a 30-person startup backed by 1789 Capital, where Trump Jr. is a partner, where Don Jr., not Trump Jr., fuck that. Nobody ever calls him. Sorry about that. Where Don Jr. is a partner, receiving a $620 million Pentagon loan as part of a $1.4 billion deal to increase the supply of rare earth magnets for military drones and radar.
Who's going to supply?
And I don't know, man. That's pish posh. We don't worry about those things. We're going to take Greenland for that. That's where we're going to get our rare earth. It's all about Greenland and Canada. We'll take Canada. We'll use all those tanks that we build in Ohio that the Army has been saying, please stop building tanks forever. And, we just keep building them. We'll just take all those and we'll just roll through Canada. That's probably what they want to do. Or we'll go down south and roll through Mexico because brown people suck or something. I don't fucking know. These people are just awful and make up excuses for everything. And next, here's where we loop ourselves back to Peter Thiel, Jared Kushner, and the Anduril connection. As we know, Anduril was awarded a $20 billion contract under a sole source framework, allowing the Pentagon to bypass competitive bidding, and counts Jared Kushner, younger brother, or Joshua Kushner, younger brother Jared Kushner, among its major funders through Thrive Capital. Jared Kushner has no administrative role, yet here he is, somehow being the de facto diplomat without any Senate approvals, without any American approvals. He represents the wants and needs of Israel and Russia and not the American people. And he is tied back to Anduril with their $20 billion contract. And that, my friends, is nepotism, and cronyism is a big old circle. If there was a Venn diagram between the people who are making money and the people who are and the contracts that are being awarded to Americans, it's a circle. There is nothing else. It is just a circle of like 4 or 5 companies at this point, and they all are owned by the same fucking people. And if they're not owned by those people, they're getting bought up by those people. So there you go. Shane, how do you feel, my friend? And don't worry, we're going to get all those rare earth minerals.
Okay,
by
cool.
Taking over every other American nation.
Great. Okay, right. So,
how can we, before we go further, Terralex, how can we stop this shit? That is a really great question. We continue doing what we're doing. We continue pressing our city councils and police departments with FOIA requests and asking them when, why, and how, getting the data. It has to come from, we have to do this on a citizen level. And like I said earlier, other countries need to be pressured. Their citizenry also need to pressure their governments to discontinue any contracts with these companies and purge them from their system. Not just discontinue usage, but purge them from the system, or else it will never get fixed. So we have to keep informed locally. It starts local, and then it gets international. And we're starting to get to some of these international phases and pieces of this. So, Terralex, great question, because we do feel a lot of times we feel helpless. Even I do. Even Shane does. Yeah. We feel helpless at times, but we have to remember that we're actually making an impact with what we're doing right now.
Yeah. And like, I took my niece for a walk. We went on a hike. She's a little over 1. Okay. And as we're walking on the trail, I'm picking her flowers, and she's like looking at flowers and the different colors. And, it's just wonderful to see this, this young person experiencing nature, and it made me want to fight again, because I'd been a little burnt out. I'd been at my wit's end. I'd been covering war for 40 plus days and watching genocide every day. And, life is important. The thing is, there is life. Like, there's children, there are kids. Like, we don't get to stop. It's not, we don't get to stop. So, that's important to recognize, is like, that's not an option. So, we have to keep going. And, that is the end all be all of it. And so in that sense, I mean, I think that's really important to note. I know it's a little off topic, but I mean, in response to everything else, assuming we get all the rare earth minerals, which obviously, is questionable to say the least, but say we do get all those things, right? Say we get all this stuff, say that we somehow manage to guarantee that we're going to get all the semiconductors to replace all of the chips that are going to wear out in like a year, maybe 2, that run all their data centers right now. Say that they have all the materials to build all these drones. Say that they can do all of these things. And I want to point out, France in the chat sent an article that really closed that loop for me. I was wondering why they're shoveling all this money into Dawn, because there's always a motive, but it's just someone has to profit, right? Like there's a motive, but it's somebody has to make money. It's got to be someone's company, right? It's the nepotism. But the note is that these companies that are doing this are trying to sell the interceptors, drone interceptors, to the Gulf states, because they realized that Ukraine had something that they didn't. And Ukraine suddenly went to all these Gulf states with the know-how to stop these drones and entered into mutual defense contracts, into supply agreements. Ukraine has made itself indispensable at the expense of the United States, blowing its dominion across the Middle East. And now they realize that, and they need the Saudis for their minerals, like the Pentagon mineral strategy, that all of that was through Saudi Arabia. A lot of that was through the Saudis, was to lock down access to minerals in the Middle East. And suddenly this war in Iran is compromising every single relationship that they had built for their friend-shoring and near-shoring hedge. And so now these guys are trying to sell them blueprints instead of a drone supply line, which Ukraine has. Ukraine has a supply line. Ukraine can have those drones to the Middle East within a week because they already make them. We have none of those things. I have to point out, this is all theoretical. Like every contract is theoretical. You said it earlier, it's 10 years of research for Terminator, not Terminator. I would be more scared if they had Terminator. I'm not afraid of these contracts. I was, and now I'm not, because I understand it's not possible. That this is just this is my opinion. Okay. I do not think it's possible. I do not think what they are trying to do is feasibly possible, not because the intent isn't there, but because it's just not supported by the material reality that they're facing, which makes even more sense in our discussion, because cronyism is not about intelligent people making intelligent decisions. Nepotism is not about people who are well-rounded and know that everything is dependent on other things. And he goes even farther into American business. It's the assumption that supply chain is infinite, that things will just keep coming to America, that the only thing you should worry about as a business person is the top line, because the supply chain people will deal with the supply chain. And that's like actually like a corporate, it's a cultural thing in our businesses. And it's going to have even bigger effects, but across our whole economy. But it does affect these biggest companies too, because it's the model of top line first, supply chain feasibility second. We'll just buy what we need. When that stops working, there's a whole nother issue. And what they've been doing is using the money that they have. And I mean, at this point too, it's like, maybe they know they can't build it, but they just want to. What money who has the biggest budget? It's the Pentagon. They're just throwing Pentagon money around. It's just
that's why they need a $1.5 trillion budget or whatever bullshit for the Pentagon is, because the excuse for the Trump family and the cronyism is war. Again, we talked about it a few episodes back or a few weeks back at this point, was the real statement that they made during the election was no, comma, more war, not no more war. It was no, more war, because war makes money in America. We profit off war to make money. And that's what we do. That's what America right now, at least, is founded upon, is war makes money. And until we disincentivize war as a capitalistic system, because we turned war into capitalism. Yes, it's always made money, but America has mastered the capitalistic ends of war, that the end justifies the means to get there, so that their top line can be bigger. And so they're going to take all of our money and put it into their defense contracts, which may or may not ever come out to anything. In 10 years, when that robotic contract ends and nothing ever came out of it, they'll be like, oh, look, we did all this research and we just got this money and made more money off of it. That's what it'll be. It's the same thing over and over again. War as a business and war as national policy to make more money. That's what it is. That's what we are fighting against or pushing back against, because the America is an empire unto itself. We have bases around the world. We have other nations that we are the protectorates of. We have basically colonies that are not states. They're just semi-states, like Puerto Rico and Guam and other places like that, where we basically run the system and improve it, but they have no power. They have no voice. We have an empire, and they want to profitize that empire even more because they saw that it was possible during the last 20 years of war. Like, they have 20 plus years of history, recent history, to tell them how profitable war can be. Look at Dick Cheney and Halliburton. Look how much money that family fucking made, and the amount of money that contractors made. They mastered that system. As dumb as we call them and as inept as they can be at certain things, they're not stupid people. They know what they're doing. They know how to get to the end that they want, because for them, the end justifies any means of getting there. So they'll do anything they want to get there. And part of that is award themselves these fucking nepotistic ass contracts and crony ass contracts that will never lead to anything, but will give their family billions and billions of dollars. And one of the things that we can do to fight back against that, because we are about action here and actually doing stuff and making sure that we're prepared, is you'll see me around a lot nowadays doing candidate interviews. I'm starting to pick up interviews with courage candidates. I have a interview with Oregon's gubernatorial candidate Brittany Jones on Wednesday, where I'll be discussing. I'll be asking her a set of questions with Rachel Marin, who is going to be one of her constituents when she wins the governorship. And I asked, can she be a part of it? Here's this person's profile. You can look into her. We would love to have a discussion with you. She will be one of your constituents and would love to be able to ask a question. The fact that she said, yeah, bring her in is a good sign. That's a good sign. How do we end these contracts and purge the American system? Well, it is primary season. And yes, people are going to scream and moan and talk about, oh, primaries and elections don't matter. It's already rigged. They're going to win. That is defeatism. That is, as Timothy Snyder would say, giving up in advance. That is bowing in advance and saying we've already lost, so we may as well not try. Well, I'm the opposite of that end. They are convincing us that we have already lost, so we need to try harder than ever before. We need to have elections that are so populous that they cannot cheat.
Correct.
That a 30-point plus swing is what happened after they cheated, not before. Not so that it goes down to a 2-point swing, but because we came out and we really had a 60-point swing in favor of pro-democracy candidates. And if they try to cheat, they can't cheat big enough to do that. So we have to come out in this primary season right now and elevate every single candidate that we can that is willing to do the job for the people. And there are candidates out there. They might not be from your district. They might not be from your state, but you need to promote them. If you see candidates on here or you find a candidate that you like, there's a network that you can get them involved with, who are, if they're progressive candidates and they want to buy and they believe in the citizens impeachment movement, send them to citizensimpeachment.com or couragefordemocracy.com. Have them go there, reach out to the candidate networks so that these candidates can get involved. That is how we as American citizens fight back in this moment non-violently, is we patriotically, we use the Constitution and our voting systems and our voting rights to the fullest advantage. We keep telling Congress folks and legislators that they need to be using their power that they have to their advantage. Well, the highest ranking person in the United States is voter, is citizen, because you vote those people in and out of office. And if we engage the apathetic voters and not the MAGA, I don't give a shit about MAGA voters. If they want to come over, good. If they want to hear what we have to say, good. If they're ready to listen, good. I will reach out to them.
As you think.
There's not as many of them as you think. If we activated even 20% of the non-voting population, that would eliminate basically the entirety of the MAGA vote right there. If we activated 50% of the non-voting, it wouldn't even matter what MAGA thought. If we activated 90% of the voting of the non-voters in this country, every single sitting member of Congress would be voted out unless they are someone who has pledged to do all of the right things. And we could literally see change in hours. All it requires is the hardest part is we stay engaged and we stay active and we find those who are apathetic to it. And we engage with them and we talk to them and we promote the shit out of candidates who are doing the work so that the people can be involved.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're going to promote candidates that we as the two of us might disagree on personally. And you know what? That's okay. Because Shane and I are different people. Shane and I represent different demographics. Shane and I have different backgrounds. But you know what? It hasn't affected my friendship with Shane in any way. Because we promote candidates that we think are going to do what we need, especially right now in this moment. And it's okay to have differences. I'm not going to degrade any of Shane's views. We might disagree on some stuff, but we'll have a discussion. But our main goal here has always been to give you guys the truth and our honest truth, but also encourage you to go do the civic action that's required afterwards, which is go vote, go volunteer to be a poll watcher, go volunteer to work in the polling institute places and be the person who checks off ballots or who counts ballots. You want to make real change and impact and make sure that the vote is secure, go be the person who counts the fucking ballots. That's the easiest thing.
Ballots. They're techno-fascists. Techno-fascists.
Not paper fascists.
Not paper fascists. They're not fascists on paper. The paper fascists.
They're cloud fascists.
These are cloud fascists. These are techno fascists. Count it by hand. And I want to add this because everything you're saying is important. But I want to give a little bit more. Do not let the soldiers who died in Iran die for Trump. Let them die, if they did die, for America, for us to be motivated enough to step up to the polls and actually make that sacrifice worth something. That, to me, is so important because they are dead. Their families will never see them again. Their children will not see their parents. Don't let them die for Trump. Do not let them die for Trump. Let them and their sacrifice be the catalyst that gets people to the polls. Let their sacrifice mean something, please. And don't be afraid. You are not on the wrong side of history. You are not on the wrong side of history. Do not be afraid because the future should scare you. If this future where you are afraid should scare you more than the future where you are not afraid, because no matter what happens, something is going to happen. So be courageous, and being courageous means you're afraid. It's not the same thing as I have no fear. There is no such thing as courage without fear. Courage is action in spite of fear. I am afraid. Nick is afraid. We are all afraid. This is scary. But you know what? Do we not come on here and talk, even though we know these are techno-fascists? Do we not post the truth? Do we not get up and go out and speak up? Are we keeping quiet when someone around us says something misogynistic and racist? No, we're not. You know what? And the more people who do that, the more people who walk by that person who said that racist, misogynistic comment, the more we realize and normalize that, yeah, you can speak up. The more people are going to do it. So, that courage is acting in spite of fear. I am afraid all the time. I've been afraid since election. Since they stole that election, since I watched the fucking blue wall go red, I've been afraid since the beginning. I've been afraid since 2016 that he would come back. I've been afraid for a long time, but I still have always spoken out against what I think is wrong. And so, something will happen. So don't be afraid to make what will happen be the thing that means that your grandkids, your kids, my niece, get to live, and Nick's children get to live in a future. I can't say better, but in a future where they have a chance to succeed in whatever capacity success looks like in that future. And it's going to look different. It's not going to look the same. They are going to, grow old in a world that is not the same as this one. But we can still shape that world. We've shaped the world we live in now in all of the wrong ways, but we can shape the world we live in the future in the right ways. There's brilliant people all over who have discovered brilliant things. And, if you don't think that free energy exists, no, it already exists. It's just that the people who know about it tend to either have to go into hiding or get killed because the people in power don't want free energy. They want to extract wealth from you. They want you to be dependent. They want their oil and all of these things to be worth money. So this is where we can change something, and changing something is better than changing nothing. I mean, it really to me is that simple. I don't, and if it's scary, yeah, it's scary, but what do you have to lose? You want to be slowly go into debt and go hungry and watch your healthcare go away, and because that's where it's going. It doesn't stop. But if we stand up, something can happen. And Nick is right. The midterms, it's all about legitimacy. You can't win an election. Orban just lost. Orban manipulated every single aspect of his government, every single one. There wasn't a single thing in the Hungary government that was not corrupted, but they still won because it was so overwhelming that it was not possible to manipulate the outcome. That is possible here. We just saw what happens. And Hungary was very important for America. Very important. CPAC and all of this new conservative, they've been going on in Hungary with Orban for a long time. So, this is where we're seeing, like, that is a blow to America. Not to America, but to the techno-fascists, to the neoconservative, Abrahamic fascist movement, right? That is a blow to that movement. So I think that it is something that we can do. And there's more of us. So, don't be dependent on what you see on social media to gauge whether or not you should be active or engaged. Gauge your community, focus on your community, and trust that other communities will do the same thing. And I think that's kind of, I guess I'm going to stop there, but I think that's kind of where I land with all that in the primaries and,
Yeah. I think we have to, at this point, we can see that it fails. We can see where they fail. We can see that pouring millions and millions of dollars, possibly billions, into things, into efforts, does not always reap the reward that they expect. This last presidential election in the US, the Democratic Party spent more money than ever, and we didn't win. And they didn't win. And so money doesn't mean anything. There are campaigns all across the US where they're not high dollar campaigns. A bunch of all the courage candidates are grassroots candidates. There's a huge push by new candidates against any sort of dark money and outside influence. There's a huge push against any PAC funding unless it's really necessary. There's a push towards, if campaigns can afford it, they will self-finance where they can so that they're not asking for donations from people where they don't need them. Campaigns are starting to get more creative again. because they're trying to show that they are not bought or paid for as a primary candidate by a corporation, that they actually care about who the money comes from and where it comes from and the people that are donating to them. And it's refreshing. Even if it's a lot of money being spent by people towards campaigns, it is refreshing to see that people are trying to focus on individual donations over corporate donations, and the goals of getting out there and actually meeting people and doing the democracy part of democracy, which is building community and then turning that into a legislative body. And that work is being done. And the work that is being done are by people like Walter Ryan, by people like myself at this point, who are doing the candidate interviews, by Will Fullwood, who is doing and picking up candidate interviews. We talked with Kira Havens, who is a representative for the Courage candidates and the Citizens Impeachment Movement. And if you want to reach out to her, she's open to talking. And if you have the space, customer, I'm talking about the smaller publications. I'm not talking about folks like Qasim and Waj, who are massive scale publications and have a much larger platform than we do. I love the work they're doing. Never going to downplay any of the work they're doing. Qasim is one of the most amazing people out there. I'm talking about our platforms that are coming up out of nowhere and are then encouraging larger platforms who are also picking it up to do these interviews. Qasim was already doing it. Nobody needed to encourage Qasim Rashid Esquire to do what he's doing. He was already doing it. He's a fucking powerhouse. He's an example of what men should be following. He has a personal religious view. He takes his faith personally. He's also just a good person. And he tries to be a good person, and he tries to listen, and he tries to care and grow. And he's an example for men to follow. I wished he would run for office, to be totally honest. He would make a good legislator because he actually cares about the people. And I hope he decides to one day. Qasim, if you're listening to me, then I know you've listened to me before because you're one of my subscribers, but also we've had discussions, is you should run for office, dude. You really should. People would vote for you. I think it would be meaningful, and you have a lot of really good ideas. We need more people like that. And if you've run in the past, people who've run in the past, you make really good rerun candidates because you know how to do it. You know how to navigate the system. You can do it quicker and more efficiently to get to the points where you need, or you can be guiding points for candidates and you can help volunteer and support candidacies. So there's a lot we can be doing right now. A lot of it's going to feel like you're volunteering and giving up time because that's what you're doing. You're volunteering your efforts to save democracy.
Yeah.
Now is the time to volunteer all your time, because if you're privileged enough to have the time to volunteer, you should be using it, because there are people out there who are not privileged enough to volunteer their time and who are still doing it. And then there are people out there who are not privileged enough because they're so fucking oppressed that they can't do it, but they want to. So you use your privilege and go do it. Like, it's on you. If you have the privilege to do it, to go out and use your privilege. That's what Shane and I are doing. We use our privilege to put on a platform that you guys have come to trust and know and like and value. And we're going to use that to continue these discussions and continue building it, because otherwise nobody's going to say it. We were some of the first out here talking as boldly as we have been against Palantir. And now other people are really talking about it. And I would like to say that I think it is in part, because of our community for continuing to have these discussions. We did not let it die. And now more and more people are talking about Palantir. It has to start somewhere. And we can be that somewhere. And so we just keep putting this information out there and keep talking about it, and eventually Palantir will come down. No, are we the only ones talking about Palantir? Absolutely not. Were we the first? Absolutely not. Are we the loudest? Absolutely not. But we did make an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an important, note, is that you do make an impact. Like, everything you do, has, like, it does feel that way. And oftentimes it does feel like it doesn't make an impact, but there is scale, right? Like, it's quantity has a quality of its own, right? Like, you know, people don't talk about the numbers, but it's not even funny. There's like 13,000 of them tops, and that's if you roll in the centimillionaires. I mean, there's not that many, folks. It's just not even that. They're not, you know, and the Congress people, they're not. No one is even close to these people. There is when you talk about wealth and power, I mean, there's no, even the people that you think are wealthy, you know, that person, you know, that's worth, you know, $20 million. They're not even, they don't even get to sit in the room. Like, I'm not even kidding. They are not, it's not even, there's a different entire segment of people. Like they have intentionally isolated themselves from the rest of us. They don't want to talk to the rest of us. There's like, the help is the help. We're all the help. Okay. Like, no matter what, we're all the help. That doesn't change. And there's the 1%, and then there's the 0.00000000000, you know, to the 20th power 1%. Okay. That's who is actually in charge. Yeah, the comment is 20 million might get you a dinner with one of those big fish. That's like they will spend that kind of money, the kind of money that would set your family up for life, is something they spend in an evening. And you have to, you know, but think about that. There's more of us than them, right? So we all, if only everyone needed, you know, $20 million can turn an entire community around. $20 million can clean up a river that is polluted and causing cancer and killing people. $20 million can plant a freaking forest. $20 million can help insulate a community from climate catastrophe, which only accelerates. We have a super El Nino going on right now. It's literally, they're thinking about calling it a Godzilla El Nino because it is so crazy. And, you know, we could have hurricanes in Baja California. I'm in San Diego. I genuinely, for the first time ever, have to consider that I might get smacked by a hurricane on the West Coast, right? Like, this is money that we need to help us, the 99.9999999 to the 20th power percent. This is there's real problems, and then there's a dinner on top of, you know, the Burj Khalifa, you know, where you eat hors d'oeuvres and drink a bottle of wine. Like, this is literally like, that's where we're at. So, you know, it goes back to the primaries. There's not that many of them. The corporations, a board of people, and guess what? At the end of the day, this is my take it or leave it, but eventually people are going to have to reconcile with the fact that, well, and I swear, I kind of think we are. I think they expected a different result in Iran than they got. And I think that it's going to speed things up a lot. I think it's a huge advantage to us at the midterms.
Yes.
I think it's a huge advantage because they're concerned about the midterms, because a wartime president does not win the midterms. That doesn't happen, especially if it's a war we don't want and we lost, you know, tens of billions of dollars. We are less safe than we were before. We've lost all of our standing. There's absolutely no reason, historically speaking, even with all of the things, this just, he doesn't win. They don't win. They get swept. That's what happens here. And so we have a lot of momentum that's organic. That's just part of what's happening, because of the general circumstances that they have created for themselves. They are coming into the midterms as weak as possible. This is the weakest, and I genuinely think this, like, so far, this is the weakest they've been, because they cannot control the narrative. Like you said, no one listens to them. Everything's a false flag. We don't trust a single institution. There's nothing to vote for that's currently there. There's nothing that anyone who's paying even kind of attention, not to mention the people who are working 6 jobs and need gas to get to their 6 jobs, and now can't afford that gas and can't afford their insurance. Like, they're going to go out to vote because they can't live, not because they even would normally vote. These conditions create voter turnout because the only thing left for them to do is to go and vote for someone else. That is it, because they can't work anymore. They can't borrow anymore. They can't, so this is where the environment is very well shaped for a successful step forward. It's not the solution. I will say this again. The midterms don't solve our problem. But even if you get 50 candidates in there who are not centric Democrats, who are actually anti-establishment Democrats, who are willing to break very best, we get chaos agents in there. People who are willing to stop the institutional corruption and rot and to throw wrenches in where necessary and to slow things down, to break up the parity in that sense. People who will bring a bill to the floor every day, they will vote it down and they will turn around and bring that same bill back. We need people who are hungry, who understand exactly what pressure needs to be done. And you know what? They need structure. They need the structure of corruption. We need the chaos of what's the word? We need the chaos of forward momentum and being progressive. We need to see what is there, what can be saved, and we need to think about what goes forward. But this is a point where they've achieved the structure that they think is ideal, clearly, because they can sustain a war that is like the least popular war in my life. And I know the Middle East was very unpopular, and Afghanistan and Iraq was very unpopular. So, I would assume that people are just as we know the polls. Everyone is like, why the hell are we doing this? Like, this is only us. This has done nothing but hurt us. They could have still turned around and ended the blockade. Instead, they stay there. They keep using and moving things around. They're not giving the idea or the perception that they want peace talks. They are amassing forces again. This is the exact same pattern we saw across February and early January. Talks, negotiations, stop, come back, talks, negotiations, push, we're not there yet. This is the same pattern. This is not, it's wishful thinking to think they're not going to do something stupid. Because, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? So, guys are nothing if not, like, to go back to our point, cronies, nepotists, which means they don't actually adapt or learn or evolve. They just try the same thing over and over again because they're used to pushing through and getting the outcome they want because they're wealthy, and it's always a revolving door. And if you push the door hard enough, you end up on the side you want to be on. That's not how the world works. And unfortunately, the best thing I think we can hope for is to really find some kind of push. Hopefully we can get a war powers resolution in. Like, I hope they're pushing those like every day, because what really needs to happen is to get war powers through so we can stop them from doing whatever they're preparing. Otherwise, it's just going to create more issues. But if they do, then understand that it's horrible. It's bad. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't want it to happen. The last time I had to do that, it was not great to cover all that. But, it also doubles down that momentum we're talking about with the primaries and the midterms and all that stuff already. So, take what happened and view it in the context of, this is our tactical situation. This is our battle. This is what the battlefield looks like right now. This is what they're doing. How does it reshape what we need to be doing? And yes, this is domestic, but also be strategic. Be strategic in your communities. Put your energy where it's most valuable, and make sure you're supporting the candidates who are going to go in. And even if we don't sweep, we want to put people in there who are going to make it harder, who are going to fight for democracy, not for the party. That's really important, because the Democrats are doing what the party says, and the party is debating whether or not to hop in bed with the fascists right now. So we need to make sure that cannot be a decision unilaterally made by the people that are currently in Congress as Democrats. We don't want those, Feldmans and Jeffries in there that are just willing to, toe the line, the Schumers, maybe step over briefly to push something, and then take the other side. So that's kind of I think important, because we probably are going to see. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I hope not. I hope with everything in my being, every fiber, that I'm wrong. But it doesn't look like they're going to be done soon. It looks like they are stupid as stupid as we know they are, and they're going to try and do something even dumber. And so if that happens, I have to go back to what I said earlier. Do not let that sacrifice be in vain. Do not let that be in vain. Do not waste what they are doing, because those people are being put in harm's way. So that means we need to fight twice as hard to get them out of there. And for every person whose life is lost because of those actions, you need to knock on another door. One more door. You need to write one more postcard. You need to do one more thing. And then you need to go to sleep and take care of yourself so you can wake up tomorrow and do it again.
That way you don't burn out.
Don't burn out.
Like Shane tried to do. Don't do what Shane did, which was 40 straight days of working his ass off and not taking a break at all. This time I think he'll be better prepared for when another event comes out, because he has the experience and the tools around him to support that. And yeah, I think that's why I'm not burning out right now, is because I have the tools around me to support me in getting the things done, and the people around me, not just the tools, but the people around me to support me when it's needed. And we can have these conversations and we can have these discussions, and we don't burn ourselves out, because it's super unhealthy to burn yourself out. You put yourself into a state of complete desensitization, and you don't want to do anything or tackle anything. And then you're no use to yourself. You're no use to anybody else. And right now we're all needed. And in the military, since, they try and push war, as a veteran in the military, and when you were training, we rotate our forces. We rotate who's on the front lines, who's on the back lines, who's in reserves. We have to do that for ourselves too. We have to acknowledge when that is needed. We need to figure out how to do it. And then we need to rotate ourselves through, so that when Shane becomes tired, we might miss him for a couple days, but somebody else picks up the slack in his absence for a little while. And then when he's back, they don't have to do it because he's there again. That's what we can do. We can rotate with each other. We can build the tools with and for each other so that we can all do it together. And Shane has gotten me some of the stuff he needed so that I can get him onto this new tool that is like, is just blasting out stuff. So if you see, I'm going to be super active I'm going to be much more active on TikTok, on Instagram, or sorry, not Instagram, on Threads, on YouTube. I'll be putting out more videos on Blue Sky. You can find me all there. Like, I am blasting out my stuff. It's called Banner Blast. I blast out all my content into other spaces now. And we get it out there, we distribute it so more people can start seeing that, because the more you know, the more you grow. The more you know, the better we can get at defending democracy and fighting back fascism. And I'm sort of concluding us because I've got an afternoon today of stuff to do, and I got kiddos in the house because the kids are off school today. So it's if you all couldn't hear the kids in the house throughout the show, we got kids in the house having a great time. But I like doing this next part, obviously, which is promoting ourselves and the work that we're doing and who we are. And Shane still owes me an icon image for his Firebrand project, because he's done all sorts of cool updates, and he's probably just going to send it to me right now and be like, shut up, it's done.
No, I'm not, but I'm going to write it down in my little notebook here while I...
Yes, you did just hear Banner Blast, Courtney. You did. And so while Shane is writing stuff down, I'm going to promote my friend, is come follow Shane Urick's work, support the Firebrand project and the independent analysis that he's doing on the war, on the efforts, not just war in Iran, but wars around the world The intelligence and just analysis that he's doing is very thorough. He's taking his time. He puts out good content. He doesn't always say a lot, but when he does, he says things that are important. And so you should follow my friend Shane. His work is absolutely worth a paid subscription. It's not paywalled, but it is worth the money anyway. And it's worth supporting him as he continues to grow and build something really cool, because he's doing really cool stuff. Shane, promote yourself, dude.
Thanks, brother. The last couple pieces I put out recently, I've been going for quality over quantity, trying to get more into a little bit of the elements and the mechanisms. I covered 41 Days of War. It's one thing to, report the events. I want to try and give you guys more understanding with that. As I've come to understand the conflict better, I can kind of start to give you guys that understanding. Understanding any concept, any conflict is about, we got to understand the root cause. And so going into this, this next phase, I wrote an article recently about Pakistan, or it's a series of 2 articles about the Chinese Pakistan Belt and Road Initiative that actually talks about how Iran is actually resupplying through Pakistan right now. As our blockade continues, explains the dynamics, how that came to be, and how that resupply corridor is going to reshape the future of the Middle East. Things like that. Very unique, synthesizing together various aspects, that geopolitics, all of that. I put out a pretty good article recently as well, kind of just talking about the state of things coming out of the ceasefire, where things are, in general geopolitically. And we'll have another article out either today or tomorrow about kind of, again, the state of things and where things are going. Nick said more war. There's a lot of conflicts. I used to do almost every day. I would do a different part of the world. We've got new adapted anti-burnout ideas. And one of those, I think, is, and this is kind of and I would love to hear your feedback either in the comments of this video or in the chat right now, but I'd like to give you guys maybe a once a week, really good show. I get the dashboard, the images, the maps, and we can go through all of these things together. And I can give you guys the same image I do, the look that I take, and how I look at the world, how I analyze these conflicts, the visuals I need to kind of put things together. So I do want to share this information with you guys in a way that is sustainable. And in a way that you guys, can get. So any support you can provide is really helpful. And I really appreciate everyone's support, especially through this time where I'm adjusting and recovering from, what's been going on, and kind of the experience that I had. It gives me a lot of appreciation for how all of these think tanks have teams of people, and maybe why they do have 6 people a region, for the reason that Nick said exactly, is so you can rotate somebody in. So looks like a lot of okay, cool. So some positive feedback. So I'll definitely do that, and make sure you leave a comment if you're watching the recording. But thank you guys, thank you Nick, and I appreciate each and every one of you and your support. And I hope to see you guys reading. If you haven't, leave a comment on the posts and say, hey, this is coming from Palantalk, want to check this out. So I'd love to hear from you guys.
Love it. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. I'll put my QR code up here too.
Guys, go support Nick. Go support Nick. Nick does it all. Nick's the man. Nick is the best. And I say this every time, I'll say it again. Like, Nick is advocating for the right things. He's talking about men. He's talking about the cultural issues. He's talking about taking care of your community. He's talking about the importance of empathy and understanding others. He's challenging the apathy of the current environment, of the foundation of every political movement is a social one. And that's where you win, is you go and you attack the root. If you want to get rid of a weed, you got to pull the root. The weed is fascism, it's misogyny, it's Abrahamic fascism, and, discrimination against people who are neurodivergent or are disabled in some way. And that's exactly where we need to pull that route. And Nick is leading the charge there. And now he's going into the things he's doing more. Don't know. He's amazing. He somehow manages to do more every time I talk to him. So he's going to be interviewing candidates. So now is the time to support Nick. If you haven't already supported him already, because he does this, he does Banner and Backbone, and he does everything he does behind the scenes. And he's a freaking dad. He's a superhero. So support Nick, please.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, we're doing my main focus at Sick of This Shit Publications is better humaning, and community building, I think, is the overall concepts there. Y'all know, many of you probably came from it this morning. An hour beforehand was the chronically ailing out, where I have my chronic illness discussions, and we don't really talk politics because it's not about that. It's about us as the people. It's about us and our experiences and how we connect together. And the more that we connect, the better our community becomes. The better our community becomes, the better democracy becomes, because democracy is an extension of community. Fascism is an extension of isolationism and abuse. And I'm against isolationism and abuse because those lead to some really, really bad side effects. And yeah, you should be too. So come join us, because we're also tearing down the manosphere, because the manosphere sucks. And we want them to just suck less. Just suck less. Just suck less. Be better, suck less, do more. And it's so much. It's fun to be around. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make it fun, but also a place where it's action focused. And it's not just about having fun or joy, but it's having fun and joy with purpose and doing it in a way that helps bring us together and beat the dark money, beat the fascism, beat the isolationism, beat the patriarchy, and actually do something good and form a more perfect union. So that's what I do at Sick of This Shit Publications, as well as all the other tooling that goes behind the scenes. I've automated a ton of stuff. I have some really cool tools and really cool systems that I just have deployed into some cloud infrastructure that allows me to do multi-platform content distribution. And I'm at the point where I can now start onboarding others to be able to use the same tool, so that they can distribute their content onto multiple platforms too, in a super convenient and easy way. Like after this show, you will all see, if you're on YouTube or TikTok and you're following Banner and Backbone's going to post all the clips that are auto-generated from this show after it finishes recording and clipping for us, because that tool is now in place. So I can do that. So I can distribute it onto YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads all at the same time. Substack, get on your game and have some sort of API so that we can do something fucking useful and programmatically, because it really sucks that I can't do any programmatic actions on Substack. Please fix that. Also, please, for the love of God, make co-host invites easy to fucking find, Substack. Like, this is some bullshit that I can't have, that I don't have a URL for co-host invites, that I can't send a co-host their invite link and say, just go click on this in an email or some shit. Or when they get into the show, they go, hey, where's my co-host invite? I can't find it. And I can just go, here you go. You used to have that, and then you got rid of it.
Dude, they keep messing around with their
what the fuck, y'all?
Their live stream platform, and every time they do, they break something. Like it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And like,
come on, guys.
Come on,
do better. Suck less. Just suck less, guys.
Like, be better. Be like Banner and Backbone.
Less. Yeah, and finally, come support Banner and Backbone, y'all. Like, to be totally honest, for Banner and Backbone right now, free subscriptions are really where it matters at the moment. I don't care about more paid subscriptions coming into Banner and Backbone at the moment. It is fine the way it is. What I really want is more free subscribers to Banner and Backbone, so that you guys can get the message out, so that you can share, like, restack. You can follow the work that Shane and I are doing here. You can follow the Anti-Fascist Book Club that we do on Fridays. Yes, we will be back this Friday. Sorry that we missed this last one. It was a busy ass day. But we'll be back for the Anti-Fascist Book Club. Plus, we now are doing Powerful Voices, progressive candidate interviews with the Courage candidates. So please come support us with at least the free subscription. That is so helpful, because When we first met with Kira Havens 2 weeks ago, we had 1,000 people on that live.
That's fantastic.
If we could get 1,000 people on every live for interviews with candidates, that changes the game. That's a game changer right there. So support the networks that are actually trying. Support us, because we are not fucking people over. We're just trying to get good information out. So thanks everyone for all your support anyway. Like all of you here on Substack with us, the folks who are watching on either YouTube or Twitch or Facebook with us, thank you for being here. We appreciate you guys, all of you, every single one of you, for being a part of this community. And we cannot do it without you. And Banner and Backbone is going to keep doing all of these things as we raise the banners higher and forge a stronger backbone for Americans so that we can actually go do our civic duty. And part of that is being here with us on Palantalk, where we like to talk tech.
No fascism.
Have a great one, y'all. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, brother.